Hello, everyone. Welcome to Durrett's Take. Selection Sunday for college basketball is less than a week away, so I know I haven't been giving you updates on my bracketology unless you've been going to my LinkedIn page down to Rep. But in this case, I wanted to go over who I think will be the top seeds and then discuss the bubble teams and see who has the case to be in or be out as we watch the conference tournaments this week. So let's get started with the top seeds. I do think Michigan is locked as a one seed. I do think Duke is locked as a one seed. I do think Arizona is locked as a one seed. So then the battle becomes who's going to be that final one seed. As of right now, and most people have it to be Florida just because of the hot streak they're on and the dominance they've been showing. Now, as far as teams that could be a one seed, you got Houston from the Big 12. I feel like if they win the Big 12 tournament, then that can bump them up to a one seed. And then they also got UConn, who was a one seed until um, their recent loss at Marquette, which wasn't a great loss. So I feel like that would probably keep them as a two seed, especially since the Big East was pretty weak as a conference this year. And then one more team that could have one seed still is Iowa State, mainly just because they were the committee's number one seed just 3 or 4 weeks ago. I know they have a couple losses since then, but they're still kind of in the mix, especially if they go on then to win the Big 12 tournament, like Houston, for example. Okay, so now for the bubble teams, I'll discuss each conference's bubble team. So let's start with the ACC. One bubble team is SMU. Um, I, I, a month ago, the Mustangs were pretty much, already making their March Madness plans, and now they're firmly in the bubble thanks to a four-game losing streak to cap off the regular season. And most of those losses weren't competitive. First and foremost, SMU has to beat Syracuse in the first round today in order to stay alive. If Because if they lose that, then there is a scenario they could be left out. If they win that game, then I think they basically secure their spot because they do have a lot of good wins. Like they have, they're four quad one wins, four quad two wins, so not bad at all. And they have some decent wins against teams like North Carolina, who's obviously a tournament team, Louisville, who's obviously a tournament team, Texas A&M, who's a tournament team. So I feel like again, as long as they don't lose a day, they should be in. Another bubble team is California, and they're in the razor thin margin area of the bubble. Um, they got four quad one wins, two quad two wins, so not as much as SMU has on the bone there, and one quad three loss, which is not ideal. But for California, though, they need to beat Florida State in the second round tomorrow of the ACC tournament. Otherwise, they're not going to be in. However, if they beat Florida State, then they would get Duke in the quarterfinals. If they somehow beat Duke, then that would be their ticket punched in. Otherwise, they'll just be hoping that the committee likes them better than other bubble teams. Next, you got Virginia Tech. Um, they're compared to other bubble teams within the ACC alone, and especially other bubble teams in other conferences, but we'll just focus on the ACC alone. They have the fewest quad one wins, which will probably hurt them when comparing resumes. I think now they don't have any bad losses, which is good because like I said, a team like California does. Um, I I think they need to I think they may need to get all the way to the ACC title game in order to then move to the right side of bubble, but we'll see. And then last but not least, Stanford. They have five quad one wins, four quad two wins, which is all really nice. But the issue is that they have four quad three losses, including the loss they just suffered today in the first round of the conference tournament against Pittsburgh. And I feel like those four quad three losses is what ultimately would keep them out of the field as of right now. Next, you get the Atlantic 10. Assuming St. Louis wins and like VCU gets to the conference changer game, then VCU has the case of whether to be in or not. A lot of bracketologists like them to be one of the last teams in. Um, I'm not sure about that. If South Florida loses its conference tournament in the American Conference, then none of its wins would be against projected tournament teams. The committee may just look at the numbers, say, hey, their quad one, quad two records not terrible per se, and they don't have any bad losses, but it's like but I'm just not convinced that they're in, you know. Okay, now for the Big 12, you got three bubble team this year. You got UCF, but I feel like UCF really should be in, but they're going to look like a bubble team probably come Selection Sunday. And then the other two ones, you got Cincinnati, who's actually playing right now. They have three quad one wins, which is not a lot, but their quad wins are really good wins because they have wins, over Iowa State, Kansas, and then BYU. The Kansas one being on the road, and they have four quad two wins. Um, to my opinion, though, like they obviously have to beat Utah in the game they're playing right now. Then they would play UCF in the next round, so they need to win that in order to get another quad one win. Even then, they may have to upset Arizona in the Big 12 tournament in order to solidify their spot. I feel like having a one quad four loss to Eastern Michigan will probably do them in, but we'll see. Next, you got West Virginia. They have five quad one wins and three quad two wins. Um, they lost at Kansas State this past week, which is a quad two loss, but did not help the Mountaineers by any stretch of the imagination. Luckily, they did beat UCF at home to end the regular season to keep themselves alive for now. Although, I think they're behind Cincinnati picking order. I think they need to beat whoever they face in the second round of the Big 12 tournament. And then I think it'd really help if they can upset Houston in the quarterfinals of the tournament to help them go a long way. Big East, I mean, some people say St. Hall may be a bubble team, but I just don't think there's any bubble teams there. The Big Ten, you got Ohio State. Now, out of all the bubble teams, they have the highest net ranking with 30, and 30 is the, I guess, lowest net ranking that an R-large team was ever left out of the NCAA tournament. That was Indiana State, so it wasn't even from a Power Five conference. So the Buckeyes, finished the season strong. They're looking good right now. They have good wins, over Wisconsin, Purdue, Indiana, fellow bowl team UCLA. Um, I I think they really need to make sure they just need to win at least one game in the Big Ten tournament to kind of secure their spot, in my opinion. Next, you got Indiana. They got just three quad one wins, three quad two wins. They have no bad losses, which is good. But the Hoosiers, I don't think they can just win one game in the conference tournament like Ohio State maybe could and get away with it. I think they need to win two games in the conference tournament at least in order to secure a spot in the Big Dance. Next, you got the Mountain West. You got New Mexico. They got two quad one wins and six quad two wins, but they do have two quad three losses. The Lobos did not close out the regular season strongly, acquiring a second quad three loss in the process to Colorado State. They have to make the Mountain West title game, in my opinion, to have a chance to make the tournament. Uh, because what's interesting is that they will be that if New Mexico wins its quarterfinal game and San Diego State wins their quarterfinal game, then as the next game I'm getting to here with San Diego State, that could be the matchup. Okay, losers automatically out of the tournament, and winner keeps themselves alive to be in the tournament. So we'll see how that goes. Right now, San Diego State and New Mexico are kind of like neck to neck in their resumes. And then for the SEC, you got Missouri. The only reason why they're even in the bubble, I feel like, is because of their net ranking not being the greatest, because they do have 10 quad one and quad two wins combined and no bad losses. So as long as the Tigers just win a game in the conference tournament, then they're pretty much in. And then Texas, they have six quad one wins, only one quad two win though, but they have six quad ones, which is a lot. Um, but the reason why they're even on the bubble is because they lost four of the last five games to close out the regular season. So they need to beat Ole Miss around one the SEC tournament. And if they can beat Georgia in the quarterfinals, then they should be in. But I think winning one game in the conference tournament should be enough. Next, you got Auburn. They have four quad one wins and three quad two wins. They do have one bad loss. But what's interesting is that Auburn's overall record is 16-15, and the 7-11 in conference play, but 16-15 being the main thing there because I can't recall a power conference team who had a 500 record, overall, not conference play, but overall, making the NCAA tournament. And if Auburn were to lose in the first round of the SEC tournament, that's what it'd be. So, in my opinion, Auburn needs to win one game to even have a chance, and then preferably they need to win two games, and then in order to feel like, okay, yeah, we should be in, we're good to go. We'll see. They'll be right at the cutoff line. And then last but not least, from the West SEC, you got Santa Clara. They have two quad five one wins and six quad two wins. They do have one bad loss from early in the season, but assuming Santa Clara loses to Gonzaga in the WC title game tonight, then the big question is: have the Broncos done enough, from a non-power conference to get at-large bid? I don't think they're a lock. However, with beating St. Mary's for the second time this season last night, I do think they will feel way more confident than they did coming into this week for Selection Sunday. It really just all depends on what all the other bubble teams do. Now, as a reminder, Selection Sunday will be this Sunday, and then next week I'll come out with my bracket and my predictions for the NCAA tournament. So thank you very much for listening to my podcast today. Please subscribe to my channel and tell me about me. Thank you very much. You have a wonderful day.